call the meeting to order. Everyone is present and accounted for, with the exception of Kurt, who won't be with us this evening, so
Senator's here too.
we're
I'll go catch him.
we're right on cue.
The senator just walked by, I'll go get him.
Let him go.
So since he is a scheduled presenter, and he'll be on shortly, we don't need to rearrange. Does anyone have any additions, amendments to the agenda? If not, I would look for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Motion by Jerry, seconded by Rob. I'm kind of watching here a couple of things develop here right now. I think.
Yes, well, I had to serious.
Yep. What kind of time?
2 seconds.
Okay. The first one on our, as a scheduled presenter would be Senator Matt Schmidt, who will be in very shortly. So let's jump down to new biz, and we can pull back to Senator Schmidt.
Have to still vote on the agenda.
Do we?
We do.
Yeah.
Thanks for the help. All in favor of the approval, say aye.
Aye.
Good job.
Opposed?
Jerry was good to do that, wasn't
Thank you.
Keep it in mind.
Under new business, consideration to approve the annual assurance of compliance report, attachment A. Who can speak to this, Beth?
I can do that. This is something you do every single year. It's a report that every school turns into the state of Minnesota through MDE. It's saying that we're in compliance with all the things you see listed there. I do the compliance report, and then Lori sends the actual certificate in after you've got it signed after today's meeting. So again, you can see everything that's listed there, and that's what we have to remain compliant of.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Motion by Pat, seconded by Brenda. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Okay. The timing couldn't be better. The timing
You
couldn't
can
be
grab a
better.
seat up here, that's
You-
fine.
You are next on our agenda.
Oh, all right.
I'd like to welcome Senator Matt Schmidt, District 21.
That's right.
And our home senator, if you will.
Nice to meet you.
It's very much a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for attending, and we welcome you, and I wonder if you have any words for us here.
Well, you know, I'm starting to have a lot to say. So yeah, I try to, I keep it short and brief. And if you have any questions, I'd love to hear them. I just wanted to take this opportunity to formally introduce myself to this group. Last year, I spent a lot of time door knocking, and on nights like tonight, I tended to try to make my way through another block or two of the community. Kind of feel like Cannon Falls is my adoptive home. I spent so much time making my way through town last year. That would give folks a little bit of a break this year, but I have been out a little bit, knocking on doors. In any event, I'm a lifelong resident of Red Wing, as many of you may know, and just thrilled with this last legislative session, and just want to take the opportunity to introduce myself, to review what we were able to accomplish, give you a little bit of a preview of what I think is coming down the pike next year, and share with you some of my priorities and interests in the legislature. If you have any questions, interrupt me at any time. I'll try to make this brief because I know you have a big agenda here. But I guess looking back at the 2013 legislative session, I look at the challenges that we face as significant, and one in which we had a approximately $3 billion budget issue to deal with, $1 billion in current biennial deficit, $1 billion of school shift that you're all too familiar with, and then $1 billion of inflation that just is not taken into account when we do our budget forecasting. And that's got Democrat and Republican hands on from years ago, and it's something I'd like to change moving forward. The fact that we don't take into account inflation, I think it's really put us in a position for these recurring budget deficits we've seen in the last 10 years. In any event, we got some good news during the spring. Minnesota's economy is really starting to pick up. I think we had 3.5% growth in 2012, putting us number 5 in the country. I also know that that economic growth is not experienced equally everywhere, and that a lot of our rural communities are still struggling. I don't think that's my car. I heard that car alarm going off out there.
It's usually Rob.
Is that right? Is he the
It
offender?
usually is him.
He was reaching for his keys first, so.
I think I'm too far away.
No,
Well, now
there's
you're two of them.
Now there's two of them.
Oh,
It's a white truck with a girl sitting in front.
no. Oh, no.
Oh, that's Nora. You can say what you want now, the baby's not
So
here.
is this a regular occurrence? I'm just wondering.
Timed just right.
Perfect. Well, very good. I hope that's not an objection to anything I was saying here, but in any event, that may be you. No, that's quite all
It
right.
actually does happen quite often.
No, I guess it's a byproduct of technology. So, in any event, we got some good news on Minnesota's economy last spring, but it wasn't enough by itself to put us over the hump. And it's no secret we ended up raising revenue last year in Minnesota, and I think for good cause. We were able to balance our budget once and for all, and not just for the immediate biennium, but for the foreseeable future. You never can predict the future, but I think our budget deficit days are over in Minnesota for the I guess the foreseeable future. We're anticipating hopefully some modest surpluses, which will give us an opportunity, I hope, in a couple of years to have a real conversation about tax reform in Minnesota. I think that's a conversation that's overdue. And that's one thing that we were able to accomplish this last year is balancing that budget, honestly, once and for all. No shifts, gimmicks, or games. The school shift, it's probably not your first priority, but it is getting paid back, and we're hoping that within a matter of months, that'll be fully back to 90-10, which we're statutorily obligated to achieve now. And I think that's a good goal for Minnesota to maintain into the future. Let's quit playing games with school funding, in my book. Another thing that I really set out to do this year, and I think a lot of my colleagues agreed, is to provide some new resources for education. And it's no secret the last 10 years we've seen a 12% decline in per pupil funding in Minnesota. In my mind, education is the reason that Minnesota's economy is doing so well, and it has done so well over the past generation. I think we've taken our eye off the ball, though, in recent years, and I'd like to move the dial in the right direction and give adequate resources to our schools. And I think this past session is a step in the right direction. 1.5% on the formula in each of the next 2 years, and then the location equity aid I know helps out this district a lot. And I'm hopeful that in the years coming we're able to have a steady growth curve, not throwing any money around, but making sure that our schools have the resources they need to compete in the 21st century. And I'd love to hear any input you have on that matter. A third thing that I talked a lot about last year when I was knocking on those doors is getting our work done on time. And I have to tell you, those special sessions we've had in June and July in the last several years, 2 government shutdowns in the last, 7 years, those days have to be behind us. Minnesota used to be a state that worked. We got our work done on time, we had pragmatic leadership, and I think we've got to strive for that goal in the future. In my mind, it shouldn't matter if Democrats or Republicans or both are in charge up in St. Paul. We've got to be able to reconcile our differences and get our work done on time. You look at what's happening in Washington, D.C. I mean, that was Minnesota not long ago, and we've got to avoid that in the future. And you look at this past session, I know Democrats were in charge up in St. Paul, but there were 3 different ideas from the House, from the Senate, from the governor on what to do. And it took us, the full session to reconcile those differences, but we did it on time, and I think that's really important. It shouldn't just be a goal. It should be something that we need to do year in and year out. So it's kind of funny, those are the 3 big things I campaigned on last year, and I may never be able to say this again in my career, but we got those done. So, and I can only take, I don't know, maybe even a little credit for that, but I think we had a good dynamic, and I'm very pleased with the outcome. And hopefully, I think we're gonna have a more meaningful partnership between state and local government and our schools. You know what to expect from us moving forward. No last minute surprises, school shifts, cuts to local aid or anything like that. And I think that's going to be really good for our rural communities, give you an opportunity to plan. And in my mind, there's things government can do, there's things government should do, but we should always strive to provide provide certainty and predictability to our local units of government. And I hope that is the norm moving forward. So I guess with that said, I've been talking a lot here. This next session coming up is going to be a short one, hopefully, quick in and out. Bonding and capital investment bill is something that we're going to look to. I think an $850 million bonding bill is our goal, and there's just a backlog of public infrastructure needs in Minnesota that queue is getting bigger and bigger, and we've got to figure out a way to make those investments in regional centers and our state hospitals, our prisons, other critical infrastructure that is crumbling, and we just you wait too long, you got to replace it, and those costs are exorbitant. I'd also like to have a conversation about transportation funding up in St. Paul. Again, the needs in transportation with roads and bridges, they only increase, and we've got to figure out a way to at least keep up with those needs, if not make up for, years of neglect in the past. So it sounds like a huge undertaking, but I think we'll be able to get our work done within hopefully 8 to 10 weeks and be done with it next year. There'll probably be an opportunity for a supplemental budget if we're running a modest surplus. And again, every dollar we spend up there, we've got to make sure it's getting the maximum return. So that's something I take very seriously. I guess the last thing I'll do is tell you a little bit about my committee assignments, and then I'll quit talking. Very pleased. I'm a son of 2 school teachers, so I was hoping to be on an education committee, but a lot of my new colleagues have educational backgrounds, superintendents, school board members, teachers. It just made sense for them to be on education committees. So I'm keeping very close tabs on what's happening on those committees. Let me tell you that. But my formal assignments are Energy and Environment Committee, Agriculture, Rural Development, and Jobs. And then there's a Finance Division that oversees spending in those areas. Also on the Capital Investment Committee, so I have been making the tour of Minnesota here with that committee in the fall, and look forward. I think we're going down to Southwest Minnesota later this week. And finally, they must have been desperate for committee chairman this past year, because they gave me the gavel on the Game and Fish Committee. So if you have any issues with hunting or fishing or DNR, probably heard that more than anything on the campaign trail last year. If you got any issues, let me know, because it's a committee that I get to assemble a bill for and spend a lot of time on that. So I guess with that said, very happy with the outcome of the 2013 session. We're never going to get everything perfect, though. We're going to come back next year, fix a couple things. And I hope, from your perspective on the school board, that we continue to give you the resources you need, and we got a good, honest partnership. And moving forward, if there's anything we're not getting right or anything that I'm not, understanding in terms of your challenges or your priorities, please let me know. I really want to have an honest, open conversation moving forward. All right, I'm done. All right. Any questions? I'll try to get right to the point if you have them.
Well, I publicly want to thank you again,
sure.
and I know I did at Chamber, but it's good for you to bring that back to your colleagues. What you guys did for education really was substantial this year, and we recognize that. And to get 1.5 this year and next year is huge. To fix the special ed cross subsidy, huge. All of those things are great. But what I challenge you to do, and a lot of districts within your district are, it is not right that Cannon Falls Schools is 330th out of 339 school districts in per pupil funding.
Sure.
And even though everyone got that increase, and again, thank you for that, it is important that my children here are valued exactly the same as the kids in St. Paul. And I get frustrated when I go to all these meetings and I hear that I have to educate the children here for less. And we're doing better than the schools that have more. There's something wrong with the per pupil units, and I hope at some point, and I know there's a lot of organizations like C and RAMPS and some of those other organizations are working really hard on that, but I give that to you as a challenge. Even though you're not on the educational committee, really focus on that, because if we could fix that and that alone, I know Josh and I would make a lot of good use with those
Sure.
fundings, because we're getting things done. Our scores are great, and our FTEs are less than other schools, and we should be rewarded for that instead of punished. And so, I'm glad they did some of the things with the levies, but I think the next step is that per pupil unit and getting it right, so we don't sit around here every spring cutting $400,000, from things that shouldn't be cut in Cannon Falls. So just keep your eye on that if you can. I'd really appreciate it. But thank you for everything that you and your colleagues have done.
You're absolutely right. And we'll continue to advocate for our rural schools.
Good.
It's important. 2 things I forgot to mention, and this is important, I think. We did fully fund all-day kindergarten this year, which I don't think we can overstate the importance of that.
That was huge for
Your
us.
district had the foresight to get there before others, but now we're gonna pay you for it. And I think that's
Yeah.
important. And I think that goes a long ways in speaking to the opportunities that folks and kids in Cannon Falls have versus a lot of our wealthier metro area school districts. So I think that's a great step towards equal opportunity in education, and also the state taking a little bit of a step towards meeting that unfunded mandate of special education. And I know that that's a significant cost for a lot of school districts, and we've got to just keep moving the dial in the right direction in that, so that you can do what's right, and we make it easier for you to do what's right. So a couple things I'd like to add there, but your point's not lost on me,
All right,
Superintendent.
I won't
So-
let you forget.
Yeah, you hold me to that.
You
And I
know
gotta
I
tell you-
won't.
Yeah, I know you won't, and I appreciate that. And I'm not on the education committee, but I got a voice and I got a vote, and it's just as important as anything. So we'll make sure we continue to advocate for our districts.
Thank you.
Anything else?
If you have future questions, do you have contact information?
I sure do. Yeah, I can
have all that
leave a
too.
card, or else please do send me a note if you got any concerns.
You know, Beth had mentioned that per pupil funding and where we are. In the bigger picture, equity and funding for just everybody. I don't know if you wanna drop that funding formula in the trash and start from scratch, but that would be my personal hope. But yet,
Very
it's
nice.
it's so convoluted as time goes
Sure,
by. That
sure.
things keep changing all the time, and without what I feel is any rhyme or reason. So I'm hoping that both houses are ready to at least look at somehow changing that formula in general, not just in particular.
Yeah, and I think, we have to be realistic. I think you're never gonna achieve full reform, that I think this is always, in our democracy, always a give and take, and you're always gonna be trying to perfect the union, perfect our school funding formula. I think there's good people who are chairing our committees and trying to get it right and to achieve optimal fairness, if you will. But I think you're always gonna have shortcomings and things you gotta address, and I think, you hit the nail on the head there. We've gotta continue to work at it and make sure our districts in rural Minnesota have, and the students in them have every bit the opportunity as our wealthier districts in the metro area. So we'll continue to strive towards that. So thank you for
Thank you.
mentioning that.
Anyone else?
All right.
No, thanks
And I'm
for
just-
your time.
all right. Well, thank you very much, and sorry if I
Thank
talked
you.
fast there. I kinda-
No, that's great.
We're used to it.
I suppose so.
So I don't talk that fast.
Oh, are you the offender? Is that right?
I got a direct look.
I just looked one direction, I didn't say anything.
Well, very good. Thanks for the opportunity to say hello today, and look forward
Well,
to
thanks for
seeing you on
coming,
the road.
appreciate it.
Oh,
Really
absolutely,
appreciate
yeah,
it.
yeah. I have one card on me here, actually, I'll just leave it
I
here.
have I can make sure I send it out.
Okay, all right. Well, very good.
Thank you very
folks.
much.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep,
Take care.
you bet.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, moving down the line, item B, under new business, consideration to approve a new bus engine for number 25 at a cost of approximately $14K. Rob, you've had some background on this, you and I both have, but you're more in tune with it right now than I am.
Yeah, this is the bus that, the engine blew up I guess about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. And, we've got a bus to replace it, because we need one immediately. And, we're not gaining any buses right now, we're just holding our own, and right now, from what I understand, we're gonna go negative if something breaks down, so. For really the cost, this is the bus we just put, and Andy, correct me, $5,800 into this last year for body work, approximately. How much? 5,800? Yeah. Yeah, just this last year, we put about $5,800 into this bus, so it passed inspection in January. So with the 14,000, which would be a rebuilt engine, not a junkyard engine, with a 3-year warranty on it, I'm thinking that this would be well worth the 14,000 spent. Gets us one more bus into our fleet that should last us a few years.
And for clarification, we're getting 2 new buses in middle of November.
Yep.
But we're getting rid of 2 buses
We
at the
have to
same
trade
time,
2,
right?
correct.
So it's a wash.
So it's a wash.
Yep.
Yep. And the one that broke down, we do have a replacement for it already, but again, that's a wash. So this would literally get us one up from where we started at the beginning of the year.
And again, last time Rob and I were both coming at it from a different perspective, we actually both had talked to Andy and both heard correctly. I didn't know our goal was to get one ahead, which obviously makes sense. So I think after Rob and I met with Andy, it was a lot clearer. So
We'll blame Andy.
I'm agreeing with Rob 100% on this one. This is a really good move. We're getting the labor for free, basically, because we have that capability here. So I agree with Rob.
Andy, you're here for expert information, I guess. Would you say that we need an extra bus? Are we hurting for buses?
Yeah, right now, did everybody get?
Yep, it's in their pocket. Yep.
Yep. Right now on Thursdays, and I guess it's gonna get worse here, I'm told, as far as activities, is, if there's no activities, we're fine. If a bus, something happens, you just go to the other barn and take an activity bus, and, take an activity bus and take care of that route. Or if one's in the shop being just tore apart, we don't have it back together yet, you can take an activity bus. But right now, there's about 1 day a week, and usually it's Thursdays, that every bus is out. We can't even keep one in the shop to work on. There's no spares anymore. So when we have a breakdown that's bad enough, I can't get it fixed by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's a Thursday, it ain't gonna be a good day. There ain't gonna be enough buses. Or simply that even if everything's out on a Thursday and something does break down, whether it's an activity bus or a route bus, you'll have to wait. You got that hour window of route time where there's nothing, we'll have to wait till one of the routes gets done, and then that bus will have to come back around and finish another person's route. So that's kind of where you're at if you don't fix this bus. Or you could entertain getting a whole different bus, but at that price level, you could get anything and it could run a week and
Right.
could have the same issue, or the transmission could be out of it. I mean, the $14,000 bus is like buying a $1,000 car. You don't know what you have because you didn't take care of it. So I think you'd be better off putting in a different motor in this one, because of the rest of the buses should last between 3 to 5 years. I know it's an older bus, but we've taken care of it for all these years, and it just got all new panels and paint on last year, so it should last 3 to 5 years more with the engine in it, and get you through without having to, because I think if you bought another used bus for between 10 or 15,000, you could be in the same boat. And who knows? You know, you don't know where you're at. This way, we know where you're at. You know where you're at.
So the Transportation Committee, I guess, has had some mild conversation about leasing a bus in the future in second quarter of this year, maybe even, or not?
Yeah, I think we're looking at probably, as a long-term fix, next fiscal year, buying a new replacement bus for this one, but leaving this one on again to add to the fleet. So by then, if we got the one bus that we've purchased for 5,000, if we keep that, fix this, and then in January order the new bus, which we won't get till next school year, we conceivably could be up to 2 buses. And then in the hard stretch times, we've got 2 spare buses, 1 manual, and then this one.
And then it really does set us up for that purchase of one a year.
Yeah.
I mean, now we can build that into the budget and kind of, with the leasing option, we
Right.
can work that in.
Plus, if there's something that majorly breaks down, this gives us, we don't have to do a knee-jerk reaction. If we need to get
Yep.
something tomorrow, right, we can pull one of these out then.
That's the other part of it. If you have a spare, that gives you time for us to deal with it. If it's like, right now, another one, motor went out, well, you'd have to fix that instantly, and that's gonna be definitely an extra cost.
Yeah.
You know, to have something done immediately. So, it's cheaper to be able to take your time and fix it.
Anyone else have questions of Andy or of Rob?
So even with the replacement of 2 new buses and getting rid of 17 and 14. 17, okay, that's one at 200,000 miles on, and 14 has 82,000. We still have in excess of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 buses with over 130,000 miles on. That's
So we need to get into that
Yeah.
rotation of
Yeah.
one a year. This
Yeah.
really sets us up well.
Your fleet is pretty old.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Aged.
200, 166.
Seasoned, tenderized.
Yeah.
Keeping them running.
So, yeah, we are, okay.
Not at all a surprise to us. We know that we've been putting buses off for
Yeah.
6 or 7 years, probably.
Done for 4.
Right, but I think with the process that we're looking at, which would be to lease to buy the bus over a 5-year period, we can start to replace at a set fixed cost every year that's not gonna break the bank.
Right.
Can I ask one question? Where are we getting rid of bus 14?
14 is at the point in its life where it needs about $15,000 worth of work.
Without,
Okay.
it won't pass code.
All right.
Yeah, it's got lower mileage, but look at,
Yeah, I was
it's
looking at the
older,
units,
and
so-
it's really rusty underneath, and it needs all new, it's never been painted, it needs everything.
Yep, okay.
So, sounds like a well-thought-out plan here.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
I'll make a motion to approve this purchase, or this, the purchase of the new engine at $14,000.
motion by Pat, seconded by Jerry for the approval of approximately 14K. You guys understanding that it might be
Right.
13.6 or 14.8, whatever. Okay, any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
Consideration to approve snow removal quotes. Now, quotes and bids are what they are, we've discussed that 100 times.
Yep.
So, who has been a part of this snow removal conversation?
Me
Anyone?
and Dave and Rob.
Okay. So, are we using the same process we've used for the new
Switched it,
process?
switched it.
Okay.
You wanna go, Beth, or you want me?
Either way, whatever you wanna do.
Rob, start this out.
Okay, I'll start, I met with Dave a couple weeks ago, to revamp the bid process a little bit. We wanted to get a little bit more uniform, make sure we try to get apples to apples quotes in here. What we changed as a big part was we went to a zero tolerance, which is any type of snow cover that we have, they'd automatically plow. Just to kind of see, because we were running into, do you plow, don't you plow? You need to start giving us a notice at 10 PM if we're gonna plow by 3 AM to be done by 6 AM. So we actually switched directions this time, and we went with a zero tolerance to see what the quotes would be. And we got 2 quotes in, and they came in, I guess what I would consider higher than expected, over $60,000, which I think we were at about 39 over.
But with the extras more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
So-
substantially more.
It's substantially more. So when I saw this, I met with Dave today. My first thought was, believe it or not, reject both quotes and go back out the old-fashioned way of doing this. To do it the 2-inch minimum before they have to plow. Dave has an on-call option. He can call in and have certain things done if he needs to. If we've got some drifting, if he feels the sidewalks only need to be cleaned, we can go the route. But right now, if we were to accept one of these, we'd be looking at over $60,000 a year, which is a significant bump, and I don't think our budget can handle it. Ben?
I would agree with everything Rob said, at that cost, and I think they bid it out very fairly, both the people are in the room, and I appreciate you kind of putting up with us changing things up. But at that cost, we could certainly buy some of our own equipment and try to do some of those things ourselves, which takes manpower, and we know we don't have that either. I would agree rejecting at this time would be the right thing to do, and then go back to the old process that we've done in the past, that you're gonna be very familiar with, and have them rebid out at that time. So I guess, and I know Dave and I have talked about it, Rob and I have talked about it, we all agree with that. We really, I guess we're just testing the waters to see where that cost would come, to not have to worry about that 2-inch mark ever having to be an issue. The other thing that you didn't mention is we did add in the bus garage.
Yes.
Andy's company has been wonderful about plowing the bus garage every time it snows. The problem with that is we need sand and sometimes de-ice and those kinds of things, which gets substantial too, and I don't blame them for not wanting to go there because it's not part of their contract, so we, again, kind of pay those additional fees, which add up very, very quickly, Josh can tell you, very quickly. So I think what we'll look at doing is maybe pulling that off again where Andy's plowing it and then using those as extras. So basically going back to the old system. So my recommendation here would be to reject the quotes that were given to us by both companies and have it rebid out through Dave. That's, again.
Dave, can you add anything to that?
Yeah, I think, part of what you said here, I say we're trying to go a new direction. I say we don't have the manpower, we don't have the equipment. We get in and, it's all depends on Mother Nature. You don't know what's gonna happen, so sometimes you end up with all these smaller snowfalls that don't fall under the 2-inch snowfall thing, and I have to call in for extras, or like I say with the bus garage, that was never on anyone's contract, so they were kind enough to do it. I mean, you still get charged for it, but it wasn't in the original contract. So with that, we were thinking, the zero tolerance, and but yeah, I guess I was surprised, where that led us, and I think it would serve us in the district a lot better if we just went back to what we were looking at before.
What kind of time constraints are we under here? It's gonna snow pretty soon.
Really? No.
That's what they said in Rapid City. No.
Yeah. Before they have done.
So,
We'd have to repost, what, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
and then,
We can have it ready by the next board meeting.
Yeah,
Both
And
the
this-
companies here.
Yeah.
used to work on it.
yeah.
and the specs are already written from the last time?
We'll tweak just a little bit, probably from the last ones.
We'll have to-
Um, Yeah, very minimal.
You know, normally we ask for some expert opinion on things, and it probably doesn't fall into this, but go ahead if you've got a question.
Well, no, actually, what I was gonna say is there's a big difference between a 0 tolerance and a 2-inch trigger. I think what could be achieved help, because obviously I've had it for 3 years, and the initial contract, you know, we, in 2010, put basically somewhat of a 0 tolerance. It was a 1/2 inch on the sidewalks and 1 inch on the parking lot, which I have the notes here, falls close to what the pricing is now, both from Todd and I. I would suggest, I mean, this is just an option, I think where Dave and the school runs into it, and I myself for 3 years trying to decide or not, I mean, let's face it, 1 inch really would do it. I mean, you know, when you get into a no tolerance, you really ultimately are dealing with, on like a sidewalk issue of it being 40 times that you have to figure for a fiscal year.
Sure.
So when you incorporate coming down here 40 times for a season, and then on a parking lot, you know, a 1 inch to a 1/2 inch, you're dealing with 26 to 30 times in a season on average. So I guess what I'm saying, the last contract, you figure that average is about 16 times, you know, and that was a 2-inch trigger. So if you split the difference, I don't like personally billing you guys either, but that is not how I bid originally. I bid a 2-inch, you know, trigger like everybody else did. And I actually went one step further. Instead of charging what was the unit price on the contract originally, it was cheaper for me to bill you guys by the hour than by my contract, which I did, and I also have them notes. So what I would suggest, and it's up to you guys because it's your contract, I would suggest entertaining the thought of 1 inch, because it's gonna take weight off you and I think take weight off Dave. Because at 1 inch, there's really no phone call that would need to be made. And it's going to eliminate that 40 times on the sidewalk. That's where you're running into, I think, as far as I'm concerned, the big overrun. The other thing was salt. When we talked in the meeting, I assumed that when we talked in the pre-bid meeting, that we were doing 100% salt on everything to keep the sand from being brought in, scratching the floors. So my bid is 100% salt on everything, other than if it gets below 0, the salt really doesn't work. So, that also would eliminate costs of you guys having to put salt out on the sidewalks also, you know, that these guys have to do too. But like I said, that 1 inch to me would probably eliminate a lot of the phone calling and the headaches on yours. And it would probably bring, at least for me, you know, it would bring the cost down, because there's not 40 events there. So, but that's up to you guys.
Well, what I do know is that we can't afford 60K. So that's a given, so I appreciate your input on this, and, you know, if it's valid, include that in there on the next, when we go around. And, so I would look for a motion.
Are we tabling?
No,
No.
rejecting.
Make a motion to reject.
I would look for a motion.
Don't table it.
I'll make a motion to reject
To reject.
quotes
Okay,
and repost.
I'll second.
motion by Brenda, seconded by Pat, to reject and repost. Any other comments?
Yes.
Sure.
Dave, this is for 2 years, right, for 14, 15?
Yeah, that was one other change. We used to have them for 3 years, we went just a 2-year,
And then also, you've requested a equipment list, correct?
Yeah, and the equipment list basically is probably just more informational wise and stuff like that. It's,
Which is good, because in the lawn mowing, you know, instead of having a full fleet of equipment, there was, you know, 2 lawnmowers. So it does make a big difference.
yeah.
So I guess I'd like to see that complete the next time we see this.
Okay, anything else? All in favor of rejecting and reposting snow removal quotes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried.
Dave, can we get that posted before midnight tonight, so technically we're at the 2-week mark by our next board meeting?
Really right now.
Are you guys okay with that, the people bidding it out?
Absolutely.
Okay.
He's got our emails and,
the midnight posting might be 6 AM tomorrow, but, yeah. okay.
Yeah, I mean, I just assume the snow season, as it all knows, I mean, it's gonna be here in a couple weeks.
Right.
The whole Rapid City, my buddy has a campground, they got 5 feet, so.
Yeah.
They got our snow.
Hope they have cattle.
Yeah,
All right.
All right, thank you. Moving along, consideration to approve a leave request. In the past, we've had that in our packet, leave requests and down in writing, but data privacy
Yeah.
prohibits it.
Yep, we don't do the in writing anymore, but we certainly can say the name, and we're really excited. Josh Davison is having a baby, his wife's having a
I'm
baby.
not having.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, wow.
Josh has decided to buy a house and have a baby and do a lot of things, all in the fall here. And you all know he starts basketball season up here pretty soon. He and his wife have made a decision to take a leave, and he will be using his vacation time to do so. The letter that is not in here states that 6 weeks. 8, I apologize, 8 weeks. And that will fluctuate from when the baby is born, and his wife is gonna take some leave too, and they're gonna coordinate that. So the leave request is just to approve him to use 8 weeks of his vacation. I do want it on the record that I have approved for him, obviously, to be our head coach of our boys' basketball team. That's on Schedule C, so he is allowed to do that on a leave. It's not like he's going out and subbing somewhere, you know, some of those other things you've heard, what you can't do when you're on leave. He is welcome to be a coach when you're on Schedule C. So we're pretty excited about it.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Jerry, seconded by Pat to approve the leave by Pat. Any other questions?
We should probably add that we'll use contracted services, the same place that we use Kathy Holm from. She comes in and does that once a week, our payroll. They offer some of those services too, and we might be able to use Kathy in some capacities as well. So we're really grateful that we have those services.
We'll talk to you about maybe doing something possibly, if I need to come and clean some things up.
Right. We'll work something out. I mean, there's some things that Josh may have to do because it's part of his job, but we can work some of those things out.
You may wanna get out of the house.
Okay, anything else? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Moving down to reports. Board members, anything for the cause? No would be that answer.
We did have a safety meeting, and Jerry will be our rep on that. I'm very thankful for that. We are also meeting this Wednesday to update our nuclear plan. The principals and I and Jerry will be involved in that. It'll stay the same as it's always been. We head over to Carleton College, things like that, but with Prairie Island, as close as it is, we'll be dealing with that. And then we dealt with 3 other kind of safety issues that we've heard about either through facilities or at this meeting. So we're making progress towards that. One of the biggest ones I think on there, and we have discussed it, but we should make sure everyone knows, is the PA system. We're still waiting on 2 more quotes to come in. So that'll be on the next board agenda.
Isn't it the 15th? That'd be tomorrow. Double check the calendar before we go.
You're right.
It's tomorrow morning.
It's tomorrow morning. I'm sorry, I'm off with EA
What
break.
time?
It's tomorrow morning. I apologize. Yes, you're right.
Okay.
Thank
Because our
you.
meeting got pushed. Staff development.
Yes. Okay.
Other than that, all the committees have not met.
Well, you're saying none of these committees have met?
No, facilities was before the last one. We had
Yep.
safety. Curriculum has not, policy has not.
Okay. Soup's report.
You know, I didn't, typically we don't have principal and superintendent reports on this month, so it wasn't supposed to be on here. Obviously, you guys have had a lot of emails from me and a lot of communication going around. Again, I'm just really pleased with how the school year has started out. Our principals have been busy. We've got conferences going on right now at the elementary, and it's just, I walk through down there, I have my own child's conference, and it's just really neat to see such a community of teachers doing so many amazing things. And our PTO down there, just working like crazy to bring so much into our schools. I mean, thousands of dollars of things that they've purchased, and they're running a book fair down there again tonight to raise more money. So just a huge thank you to our PTO for doing everything that they do for our schools.
Okay, since we're out of rotation on reports, I will just cordially ask, Dave, do you have anything?
As for an update here on keeping, I say we did have a facility committee meeting set by So, just real quick, this fall we put cement outside the field house entryway, and we got the bike racks there and stuff. The new benches did arrive today. I didn't know that we have to put them together, but we put them together and put them out there. Retention pond out here that got blown apart here during that flood stuff's been all rebuilt. And then we got together with Dwayne Pliscott, Amanda Thompson, and Doug Eisbergs, and thought put it back together right. So we got prairie grass and stuff that's gonna be planted in there to make it useful for their classes. Today, I just turned the boiler on for the high school building here, and I got another one that's just getting its mud legs finished up down there. Also, I see they were still down there when I came, but I got FLR Sanders down at the community center sanding the floor. That'll be refinished here in 2 weeks. Let's see, we got Todd's gonna be cutting down some trees for me over at the elementary. And on the PA over at the elementary, we've got quite a few awareness lights put in and stuff. We're gonna add 2 more speakers on the outside. We'll have the quotes and have a facility committee meeting and present it to the board in the next board meeting here for approvals.
Thank you. Principals report, again, we're out of rotation, you have anything?
I do. Just a couple of things. Homecoming was last week. It's my 4th homecoming here, and it's by far the smoothest. And I think staff would say it was by far the least interruptions that they've had. The student council did things a little bit differently. Instead of having an activity every day, they did a longer period of time on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and that left a couple of days during the week at least for some normalcy. And it worked out very well. Big kudos to Kate Nolan, who's the high school student council advisor, and especially to Ryan Foster, because he did a remarkable job with organization and getting his crew to get everything done on time. So a big kudos to him. I've been working a lot in the last month on technology. You may or may not know that we've been trying to develop a plan to start a one-to-one device initiative to be able to put some type of technology into the hands of all of our students, so we're working hard on that. The elementary's kind of made a decision about what device they would like. The high school, middle school, we are gonna take some time and go out and visit a couple of schools that are doing some different things, just to get some different opinions on things that are out there. Our new student information system, I think, as we're going through the year, we're getting more and more familiar with it, and we're getting a lot of the bugs worked out of the system. We did our first major grading at the high school midterms last week. That seemed to go fairly well, other than things that I had messed up when I did an initial setup this summer. So, and I'm not surprised that I messed something up this summer. So, but we're getting them fixed. MEA break this week, obviously. Beth and I met about my principal evaluation, and Derek did the same thing with her.
That's correct.
We set what I thought were some really good goals for me for the year, and I really like the process that we're going through. Let's see, as far as specific high school stuff, the PSAT will be given on Wednesday this week to juniors, sophomores and juniors who wanted to take that. It came up at our safety meeting last week, but Derek and I wanted to take a look at our lockdown procedures. And we had only one type of lockdown, where it was a hard lockdown, shut off the lights, close the windows, kids get in the corner away from anything. And that was the only type of procedure that we had. And what we have heard and what we found is that we really need to have kind of call it a soft lockdown, or some type of intermediate procedure where we have kids in rooms and the doors are locked, but class goes on as normal from there. A good example is last year, the year before, with Lake City, where they were in a lockdown for the whole school day. You know, under our normal procedures, we don't have any way to take care of that. So we're looking at or we have changed, and we're gonna start this with our next lockdown, a soft and a hard lockdown. So the hard lockdown is what we've done in the past, where you hide. The soft lockdown is lock the door, get everybody out of the hallway, and continue teaching as normal. So, that's gonna be a new thing, and we're updating all of our emergency sheets for classrooms for that. Last week, Kirsten Hoffman and I attended an information session in Rochester on a program called Ramp Up to Readiness, which is sponsored by the University of Minnesota. And Ramp Up to Readiness is all about preparing students for post-secondary life, whether that's going into a career, going to college, or doing some form of post-secondary education, whether it's a 4-year or 2-year degree, or just a certificate program. There was some legislation in this last year that requires us to do some of that. Ramp Up is kind of a nice thing because it meets all of the requirements of that new legislation. It's free, and it would be easy for us to implement. So we are very likely going to be applying to be a Ramp Up school. And if we're accepted, they put us into either starting right away next fall, or it would be the fall of 2015. So that's something that we're looking at doing. And then I'm sorry for taking so long, but a couple of dates to keep in mind. Next week, on the 23rd, if you have time, you're more than welcome to come up at either 1 or 2 o'clock and listen to Aaron Thomas speak. Aaron Thomas is the activities director in Parkersburg, Iowa. You may remember that several years ago, Parkersburg was virtually wiped out by a tornado. And Aaron's father was the football coach, and he was shot and killed by a former student of his. And Aaron came back to that school that next year as the activities director. So he goes around and talks about being resilient and the kind of life lessons that he's learned from that. So we're lucky to have him coming in. That's being sponsored by Keith Meyer and by I think it's by the Ed Foundation.
Ed Foundation as well.
So, so 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, or at 5:30, he's gonna do an open thing for the community. So you're more than welcome to come to that. And then next Friday, on the 24th, is our fall band and choir concert. So it's a 6 through 12 concert. I've told that it's not ensembles, it's just the large groups. So if you're looking for something to do, it'd be a nice date night.
Is it the 24th, or do you mean the 25th?
Friday the 25th.
It's
Am
the
I
20th.
off on my dates?
Yep, it's
Okay,
25th.
sorry. Friday the 25th.
It's Friday.
It's Friday, I know that.
Calendar is
And
bad.
retreats.
What's
What's
that?
Why are we all off by a day?
So the 25th is the date.
25th.
That's fine.
What time?
7 o'clock. 7 o'clock.
The choir's first.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
They alternate.
Usually.
Was it first last year?
Last year,
Or they were
was
second?
first.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Yep.
Jake?
Yeah, just 2 things real quick. Hopefully you all had a chance to catch Amy Charles Athlete of the Week deal 2 Fridays ago now on WCCO TV. Kind of a cool story. She's a homeschooled athlete, but represents Cannon Falls, and it's a good story. It was a fun experience to go through. And then also tomorrow morning, our doubles team for tennis, Maddie Adele and Taylor Bannon are playing to go to the state tournament. So down in Rochester, so hopefully they do well. 3 teams left, top 2 go. So that's in Rochester tomorrow morning. Other than that, that's all I got.
Thank you.
Yep.
No student reports.
When are they gonna, when are we starting?
Have you picked your junior yet?
I have not.
Okay.
With
So
homecoming last week.
yeah,
I'm gonna
it's
get
just
that
kind
out of the way.
and they typically, usually start this board meeting, I mean, we'll be one off, but this is common. Kind of want to make sure we get the right junior in there. So.
It would be nice to hear from one of our groups. You know, we talked about student council. They certainly have a lot to offer us. PTO is one group we haven't heard from for quite a while.
We've got them listed right now. We've got the next, all the way through December listed out. Next time you're gonna be hearing from Rick Lee on the technology, I want you guys to hear where we are on infrastructure and all that. So we've got some really strong housekeeping things that we need to, he's putting together a budget and a timeline, because it's important that you guys are all on board with that before we make that next step. But we had PTO listed, we had Ed Foundation listed, There's several listed on there.
Yeah.
So we'll just go ahead and, kinda like we did last year, I think that was really nice to balance it. One that's maybe a little more educational for the board, and then one that's just, fun to listen to and hear all the great things they're doing. So we'll balance it out again.
Sure, sure. Upcoming meetings, 10/28/2013 is our next one. At that point in time, we'll hear about PA system.
PA system for sure, technology will be on there. And then just a reminder, no board meeting on November 11th because it's Veterans Day. So you'll be at one board meeting for November.
And
All
one
the
in December,
districts are
too.
doing that. What's that?
Then only one in December too.
Correct. But that's kind of our slow time, and then the new budget comes out January, so that's pretty common.
Let's
We'll
make
make
sure
up
our
for it
snow
in the
is.
spring.
What?
We'll make up for it in the spring.
Yeah.
And for sure, we need to make sure our snow.
And then you'll also have your retreats as well, so you'll have some.
You'll want that
Okay.
snow done.
Next would be public forum. Those wishing to speak about any topic relating to the school have an opportunity at this time. Depending on 1 to 4 minutes is usually pretty proper. And we'll move along from there. All right, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Pat, it's on top of it. Rob, did you second?
I second it, yes.
Motion by Pat, seconded by Rob. Any other discussion?
What was really smooth about her here?
Good timing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Just Kurt. See, it's Kurt that's causing us to lag.
Lori's got here at 1:45.
One less person to get there.